Hey guys, what's up? Pellet back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about leveling inside of Shadowlands. I know a lot of you guys are getting ready to play a priest in Shadowlands, or maybe you're going to look to level this kind of later. So here I'm going to talk about the talents you should keep in mind, gear to keep in mind, and that kind of intro rotation to get started with your Shadow Priest. All right, let's get started. Okay, so starting things off, let's just go over talents real quick. I've talked about this before. I have an FAQ page that I do want to let everyone know. We're doing a future video on that coming soon, but if you don't know, I think for the most part, leveling talents are kind of take what you like to pick. I'm going to go with my recommendations here just to walk you guys through that. There are, some options that we'll go over here, but for the most part, this is what I'm going to use. I think this is going to give you the fastest amount of leveling, but hey, if you don't like a talent, don't take it. It's just leveling. There's no reason to, you don't have to min-max leveling, right? It's going to be fine. So starting off with the level 15 row, I think Death and Madness for me here is the clear winner. You're with Death and Madness, you're just sniping through mobs, and this is going to be your bread and butter of your rotation, is mostly just getting mobs to below 20%, Shadow or Death, and then move on. That's going to be like your bread and butter right there. I think Unfurling Darkness could be okay, but I think in general you're going to see better value out of Death and Madness because, targets are not going to live, 15, 20 seconds to get your dots that much of a time to actually do their full damage, so wouldn't worry too much about that. Moving on to level 25 row here. Again, this is mostly preference, although I would say that Body and Soul from like a just speed of leveling is going to be your friend here. Like we don't have a lot of base movement, so giving that movement speed from Power Word Shield is going to be pretty great. Other two options don't really make any sense. Again, reducing Dispersion's cooldown with Intangibility could be okay because Dispersion does give you I think now a 50% speed increase, which it's something, but again, you're going to get way more value out of Body and Soul. Moving on to level 30, I think Misery is the clear choice here. This is what I always use in my leveling experiences. I basically just pull everything with Vampiric Touch and then go nuts with either Mind Seer or maybe a Mind Blast if it's just one target, and then just get to that Shadow or Death range. It gives you a little bit of like passive damage, lets you kind of move on the move, still damage things, which is great. Again, this is why Unfurling Darkness could make sense because Unfurling with Misery means you can dot two targets very, very quickly. But again, your preference on that guy. I think, Searing Nightmare, I've tried. There's just not enough. You don't pull that many mobs. I feel like Shadowlands doesn't have as many clumps of mobs, maybe as other expansions, at least in my experience. So I wasn't really getting a lot of value out of this. Of course, if you decide to hop in a dungeon, you can try out Searing Nightmare there. But from an open world leveling perspective, I definitely think you should be picking Misery up here. Twist of Fate could make sense. Again, this kind of really just depends on how fast you're killing mobs. If you find that, you're like wasting time dotting enemies because they're dying so quickly, just take Twist of Fate. It's going to net you better results, but, make that a judgment decision based on how much gear you have and stuff. Level 35 row, again, mostly personal preference. I know I like to level with Last Word personally, but I think in general, Psychic Horror is probably going to net you better results. Just kind of depends. Having a Silence and a Stun can be pretty helpful, especially if you're leveling solo. I think Mind Bomb is probably not going to make sense for leveling here. I think Psychic Scream is generally better than Mind Bomb, so, just my 2 cents there. But again, pick what you like. Level 40 row, this is actually kind of an easy choice, although you guys might not like it. Shadow Crash is the clear winner for leveling. Between Auspicious Spirits and Psychic Link, you're just not getting any value out of these spells because, one, Auspicious Spirits are going to take too long to actually fly to your target unless you're literally right in front of them. Psychic Link, again, not going to be that big of a deal because it requires you to dot first. It's just a lot of setup. Whereas Shadow Crash is just set it and forget it, fire it off, and boom, there's some AoE damage. You get a big chunk of insanity from it. So Shadow Crash definitely feels like the play here. Level 45 row, a bit of preference. I mean, honestly, guys, Void Torrent hits like a truck. So I think like leveling with Void Torrent was my personal favorite, especially if you like. There's always like a big mob that you have to kill or whatever. Like Void Torrent's great for that. It effectively will just destroy whatever mob you're casting it on. That's always good, especially if you're pre-dotting with a few dots. Like it's gonna nuke whatever target you're fighting. Mindbender, I didn't get really much value out of, especially if you're kind of trying to level quickly, like on the move with Bender moving with your target's never a good thing. And then like Damnation could make sense if that's really what you want to do. I just think for Damnation's cooldown and with what we're doing leveling, the targets aren't living long enough to really give Damnation that much value. I think Void Torrent's far and beyond better here. And then last but not least, the level 50 talent row. Surrender to Madness, clear winner here. It's very easy to use Surrender to Madness while leveling. All you have to do is just snipe a target right before it dies. Boom, you have Void Form going into whatever next pack you're doing. I know a lot of you guys might be a little like apprehensive on using Surrender to Madness. I would say if you're in the camp of worried about Surrender to Madness or killing yourself with Surrender to Madness, I would definitely don't worry about it too much. I think leveling is your safe spot to try it out. Right? You'd rather practice getting used to Surrender Madness, getting used to the debuff in a leveling environment rather than in a plus 10 dungeon after you cap, right? And so I think I would personally, for all of you guys out there that are a little concerned about Surrender Madness, but still want to min-max your character at endgame, use leveling as your chance to, get used to Surrender Madness, try it out, practice, all that good stuff. Now, if you really don't care about any of that, taking Ancient Madness is going to be fine. Hungering Void, you're not going to get as much value out of in leveling, but Ancient Madness could be good if you want to pull a bunch. Big crit Void form could be good, but, it's just my 2 cents. Then real quick, if you guys didn't know, if you go with War Mode while leveling, you will generally level faster, you get more experience. The only caveat is you might see Horde or Alliance depending on your faction that are trying to fight you, so keep that in mind. Depending on how launch craziness goes, this might not be worth it, but if you do decide to go with War Mode, the 3 War Mode talents that I would take almost in any scenario from a leveling perspective, I think Lasting Plague is almost like guaranteed. Please use Lasting Plague. If you don't know, it just increases the duration of Devouring Plague by 6 seconds, which is really great because with the way Devouring Plague rolls damage over, it just keeps getting better after you keep recasting it effectively. So a great talent to use for sure. The other talent that I always would take personally is Void Origins. It just makes Void Eruption instant cast. This is just like a playstyle thing. Helps you, cast on the move more easily. And just kind of go with the flow. It just feels great to play more than anything. Kind of like the way Surrender does with its Void form. So I like that one. That one's more personal preference, so it's not really giving you a DPS benefit, but there it is. And then last but not least, this one I actually didn't pick originally, but I got feedback from people like, hey, Greater Fate is amazing. And I've kind of reread it, and I definitely have missed over this for sure. So if you don't know, Greater Fade replaces Fade and says Fade out, removing all threat, which is the same, increasing your movement speed by 50%, and causing most melee and ranged spells to miss you, last 4 seconds or until you take a hostile action. So it effectively gives you a divine shield for one ability or melee hit or whatever, and then increases your movement speed by 50% for 4 seconds or until that breaks, which is great for leveling. You pair that with Body and Soul, there's some great little movement speed bursts here. It's actually pretty nice. So definitely going to pick that up while I'm leveling in Shadowlands, but you guys do what you like. Okay, so other things to kind of mention here, there is some gearing decisions you're going to have to make while you're leveling up inside of Shadowlands. Don't worry about this too much. In general, especially if you're a Mythic Raider, you're not going to be replacing gear until 56, 57 or beyond, maybe even later than that. Hey there, this is Future Public interrupting myself. After recording the video, they actually just recently nerfed almost every BFA trinket across the board, so I still don't quite know what this is going to mean in terms of leveling and when you're going to replace trinkets, but just keep that in mind. I think, it was kind of all over the place, but Vita, Manifesto, Highborn Compendium of Storms, a whole array of trinkets from BFA was nerfed. This probably means you're probably going to replace these trinkets earlier than I originally thought, but do keep that in mind as you go on, that things are definitely less powerful than they were back in BFA. All right, back to Old Public now. You're not going to get a lot of really great trinkets while leveling, at least from what I've seen so far. Once you start getting into dungeons, that's where some of these dungeon trinkets can be very strong, like Imperial Ordnance, or there's a Inscrutable Quantum Device, I think is what it's called. Also really solid from dungeons. So if you do any of those while leveling up, the dungeon trinkets might be something to consider replacing your base ones, but otherwise you can keep those guys. The other big thing to keep in mind here is with your Azerite gear. So generally speaking, you're actually not going to replace your Azerite gear until 59 or maybe even after you cap, and that's mostly because the Azerite armor, to compensate for it having no secondaries, has a crap ton of intellect on it. So you're actually going to be a bit of a loss if you replace that thing too early, even though you're not getting any of the Azerite traits. If you didn't know, Azerite traits and essences will be disabled as soon as you start leveling in Shadowlands. But, you can leave the Azerite necklace equipped. It has a lot of stats on it. The Azerite pieces have a lot of intellect on it, so keep those for quite a while. And then same thing with the legendary cloak. Again, it's got a lot of stats on it, especially considering a lot of the cloaks. I know, we'll see if they've changed this. I was even still using it after I had capped. It takes a while to get a good cloak to replace it. So we'll see what happens. I believe the proc is either reduced while leveling, or that might even shut it off somewhere halfway into leveling. I forget exactly what they've done, but for the most part, you're going to keep all those guys for their stats anyways, and you're more or less just looking for either socketed upgrades or whatever else. Keep in mind they did change sockets. Not everything can have a socket anymore. So a lot of new changes coming into Shadowlands, but for the most part, it's going to stay the same. And guys, just to cap this guy off, if you're concerned about how to do the rotation while leveling, it's going to be very, very simple. You're just going to press your abilities on cooldown. It's your goal to, if you can, if they're going to live long enough, dot everything up with Vampiric Touch when you're using Misery, get all those dots out for the mastery benefit, and then just nuke your targets down with Devouring Plague, Mind Seer, Mind Flay away. Again, use Shadow Crash, Void Torrent on cooldown, and Shadow Word Death is going to be your best friend. You're going to have a great time while leveling. It's going to be great. I promise you. So guys, that is it for this video. Big thanks to the patrons that are supporting me with all this awesome content. Hope you guys are enjoying it. And again, have fun while leveling in Shadowlands. We got a lot more videos coming soon, so stay tuned for that. And again, if you haven't seen, I'm going to link it in the description below and do a whole video on this, but there's a spreadsheet I'm going to link that is going to go over everything you need to know while, like, after you cap in Shadowlands of, like, hey, what conduits do I want to go? What covenant do I want to go? All that stuff is going to be in that sheet. I'm going to keep that thing updated, so make sure to use that as a reference point, either after you're leveling or towards the end of your leveling experience. It should help you kind of streamline some of those questions instead of just, like, scrambling to find the information. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.